retention, growth, and how is it driving the revenue in the organization in all the sectors? So coming to the question, so I see that as per the stat that 89 to 90% of the companies now compete primarily on customer experience ahead of price and product, which is actually viewed as a driver of growth. So what actually is driving the shift inside the organization today?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, unit economics and how is CX driving growth. So if you understand the how the CX customer experience evolved, like the mom and the pop stores, we knew like you give a good experience and then we say, would you want to try this product, right? So it comes hand in hand. When you have a certain experience, you by default have a conversion, have a retention. That was how commerce worked. But till suddenly the digitization happened and the scale happened, right? And then suddenly the industries kind of grew, the retail grew, the call centers came up, and suddenly it started operating at a separate unit, especially for last 2 decades. So there was a unit of every org you take. For example, you take the FMCGs, you take the retail, you take the rest of the industries as well, even automobiles for that matter. You have a sales unit who does sales, and then there's a customer service or a customer contact units who takes the contacts and who basically measures the NPS and the CSAT, and then there's a disproportionate pressure on them to kind of convert that and explain how is it even driving the GMV. So this was the lay of the land for last 20 years. What I see is changing is around COVID, I think the acquisition cost, especially if you talk about Indian, sales sector, the acquisition cost reduced. So the kind of burn each industry used to do to acquire a customer started going down, and each industry tried to kind of realize that we need to retain these customers, right? Thereby retention at a certain value became so important. Also inside out, the CX teams started understanding what needle they move beyond NPS and CSAT is how the shift started changing. I saw that shift probably around 2022, and I see that shift a lot more around in last 2 years. That's how I would say the thing is shifting.
Yeah, so I think even I just want to take an example of Domino's back in year 2008. So people who actually tried Domino's pizza, they started saying the crust became it tasted like a cardboard, and some of them also said their ketchup, no, the sauce tasted like a ketchup, and they had a very bad experience back then. So what Domino's did was they didn't, change the recipe internally. They published on the national television, and they wanted to tell the world that we respect the customers and we want to change the entire recipe and the entire model in the national platform. And that way the stock was almost 8, I believe, in 2008, and it actually spiked up to almost $400 in the year of 2018. I think that's something, the great thing what then Domino's did, and even in Sugarfit as well. For us, if in 6 months, if users do not see any happiness or they do not come back to the app, that's like we're losing the customers in the health tech as well. So it's not we cannot, in the health tech also, we cannot treat them as a support channel. We do not have that leverage to treat them as a support channel. So giving them the experience, bringing them back on the application is something that's super important for us. So yeah, coming to the next question now. So 70% of the companies do not know the impact of their customers, that it's the bottom line. Not some struggle, but most simply don't know at all. And they actually track NPS, CSAT score, and journey scores. But actually, it's super difficult for them to actually connect to the retention and revenue. Where does this translation typically break it down in the real organization?
That's like I attend a few seminars. We do talk about automation and stuff. This kind of questions is a very rare kind of a question. So thanks for this question, by the way. Some people who knows me knows I'm a very nerdy number-backed person. So If you guys are up for number, I'll probably try to explain you. Are you guys up for number, or should I just explain it as a story? Anyone show of hand for anyone who wants to understand numbers? Okay, a couple of you. For the rest, I'll probably bore. Yeah, okay, fair. So I'll explain what she said in a way. What she said is, how do you map a NPS to a sales number, right? So probably, Sapna, she is in sales and you have a very good NPS. How do you even go and correlate with sales? I'll just explain you with a simple number. मान लीजिए in a retail domain, if you sell every 100 units, typically across industries, digital industry में हो सकता है 1-2 call आएगा. Some kind of e-commerce retail industry में it may vary from a 4 to 10. तो 1 to 10 मान लो आपको कॉल आएगा. मैं बीच का ले लेती हूँ, 10 ही ले लेती हूँ. 10 calls you will get for every 100, right? Sales. How many people give service? So typical take rate will be 4 to 6%, right? So for these 10 calls, even if you get 10 calls, right, you will probably get 0.4 survey, right? So now you are going and telling Sapna, you sold 1,000 units, but these 4 people came. 3 people probably said we are doing good. 1 person is sad. What in life of Sapna will change that she'll be convinced to say, okay, this is a significant number and I really need to sit up, right? So this is basically the number gap, right? So I joined CX of Flipkart around 3-4 years back. The first thing we understood this and tried to create the first metric, that how do we tell Sapna the relation. So for every 100 she sells, probably there are 7, 8, 12, 13 mistakes that we do. So we first define the mistakes. Probably people who call are lesser, people who give feedback are lesser, but we do these 15 mistakes. Some of them come to us, complain, and this one person really complained bad for that 100 she sold, but then there are 10 others who suffered. When you create an inside-out metric for what we did mistake, very simple example, I delivered 100 products, 10 of them I did not deliver on time. One person cried and cribbed, rest 9, half of them will not come and buy, right? When you get into the analytics of the data, there is a very clear correlation of A, the GMV loss, what we lose, B, there is something called lifetime value, right? Even if you can't establish a lifetime value, the repeat purchase, like typical term is M1, M3, next month, next 2 months, 5 months may, typically same customers, if they are not served with a problem, how do they purchase versus these set of 10 customers? That's the loss. This one person is a representative. He, in any other word, is the spokesperson of CJP. Rest are the students who are suffering, and someday they will come out and, walk away from your support is what we need to understand. Once you understand this maths, the communication becomes very easy. So we move from NPS, and of course we have something called RR, resolution rate, similar to metric, but that's an early indicator of the GMV loss and the unit economics loss that you have. And once we started marrying the finance numbers with analytics, with prediction, and with customer experience, it's just about marrying this bridge, is when the leader stood up, like woke up. The leaders understood, like it's pinching us today, it will pinch us tomorrow. That's how you bridge the gap, is how we did in Flipkart.
Right. So if you had to eliminate one customer metric today, what would that be?
So, very tricky question, huh? So, I would talk about what we did in Flipkart. Flipkart had 2 metrics, CSAT and RR. RR was kind of a proxy for what we call NPS. So, RR is, could we solve your problem? And CSAT is, how was the call experience, right? Unfortunately, most of the customers don't understand the difference. Even if I'm the most polite to you, if the product is breached, like I don't deliver on time, and if I can't deliver and you have a birthday party to attend, I will still keep saying sorry, and then next day probably I'll become social media meme for saying so many sorries, right? That's the true story how call center works, right? So we realized that these two kind of has a very high influence on each other. We clubbed them into one. That's how we eliminated, like, a customer interaction is not successful unless we resolve, so we rather stick to one.
Yeah, I think well said. We all should have. I remember Costco in Canada. No, they also have just one metric. That's only profit and loss. So they actually connect profit and loss to renewal rate. So even in Sugarfit also, we don't track NPS or CSAT score at all in health tech. What we actually track is, because it's a digital platform, it's a virtual platform, we want the users to come back on the app, right? So we actually track what is the engagement rate, how often are they using the workouts, how often are they logging the food activities, the lifestyle, whatever we want them to change is something we are tracking. I think that's what that's what matters. So sentiment tells what people say, and the behavior tells what they did, right? So that's where they receive the funding. So that's what it is. So coming to the third question, Anu, so even when the leadership understands that the better customer experience improves retention and lifetime value, customer investments for the customer experience team, the investments is still often difficult to get it from the management, and it's super difficult that we have to keep justifying, especially in startups as well. So why does this gap come between understanding and funding?
It's a bit like when we go to an interview, or even when we go to a manager, first we'll have to understand what we are capable of, but then also know how can we communicate our value and keep communicating our value. That's the way of life, right? How do we sell us as a brand is also same as how do we sell our team's value as a brand, right? So that's a pretty much human struggle, right? But I'll explain in a slightly personal way of how we did. It's a struggle. Like initially it was like a lot of industries see this as a cost, right? And we also have to understand it is a cost. So we have to be agile on where we can cut the flab, right? No business has disproportionate income, and even if there's a burn to acquire or retain customer retention and acquisition, will gradually reduce someday. Having said that, it's also a trade-off. Number one, what we said, once you explain its impact on the revenue, the discussions become way more easier. That, if this is the revenue on the table, I will guarantee if you deliver these kind of services, right? So that becomes easier. That's point number one. Point number two, outside in, there are a couple of very interesting surveys that's gradually coming up with all of these situations. I was just reading there's a very famous researcher called Forrester. Unke is saal ke ek survey hai, and so they basically figured out, and there were some 300 odd brands in US they did a test on, and they came up with these results. So there's something called a brand equity, right? If you spend on a brand and the customer likes a brand, suppose you like Samsung, you will probably pay a little premium to buy a Samsung over another generic brand, right? You also will like to pay a slight premium, at least that's the number came in US, when the customer experience is good, right? But when both of them are good, if there's a brand who has a good brand equity and a customer experience equity, the results are not additive. It's not 1 + 1. It's a 2.5 to 3.5x. And these are hard-coded data. We need more researchers in India that will also tell us that while the marketing team and the sales team works on the brand perception of it, what do we do for customer experience perception of it? So that together increases many folds. That'll help.
Yeah, I remember even in Amazon also, when they started this, they got the monthly subscription, if you remember. And I'm sure how, I don't understand how did they even approve the ROI there, right? Because the costing was very high. And right now, if you see the data also, 92% of the users, they renew in a year. And 98% of the years, they come back again and renew. Do you have some kind of a plans, even in Flipkart, like anything as such, which you're planning for a one-day delivery as the other retail apps has?
We do have. The basic difference is, one is a paid model, the other is a earned model. So we did have a Flipkart Plus who gets benefits in terms of coins, in terms of their access to customer support and stuff, but you have to earn there to be there. It's a privileged team. we did launch a VIP program also. We renamed it as Black, which is a paid model. I think we saw very good. It is a couple of years old model. From last year, we did see a lot of good traction, right? So that's also there. We are kind of still experimenting with, how do we make loyalty work for the very native Indian customers. Is it a buy versus is it a build and acquire is what where we are working on.
Got it. So what is the customer set you are actually focusing?
Without getting into too many details, Flipkart does serve Bharat. So it's the tier 2, 3 are our backbones. The east and the northeast and the, we served a lot of territories of remotest areas of Punjab and Kashmir during the wars that happened. We were around there. We served every pin code during COVID. I remember I was not in CX, I was in Control Tower, enabling every pin code wise delivery. In 2 months, there were 700 government orders that came. And we burnt our midnight oils, sat and understood everything, and under legal rights, how do we reach the essentials to every pin code of the customer? That's the USP we are driving. That's why we are.
Yeah. All right. So you have another question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So researchers actually suggest that a small improvement in customer experience will help us in improve the profitability. So despite the retention focused customer experience initiatives often struggle to get priority. So what's missing in and how's this valued in a communicated internally?
Well, I'll answer this very shortly. You have to communicate your value, and that's said and done. You have to understand your value, what you drive, how do you make things accountable and drive it. But it also has to be top down. If you can't communicate, you can't earn. But once you understand and communicate an accountability while you drive bottoms up has to come top down. The leaders have to understand, right? And the leaders have to drive. Thankfully, in Flipkart, we have leaders who gives us a lot of autonomy to go and even talk to the heads of the sales teams and stuff and hold them accountable, hold their P&Ls accountable if things are not in place as we demand. That's what gradually helps us. And it's one step at a time. I'm not saying that any of us are perfectly there, definitely not us, but we are walking towards perfection because our leaders are, pro customer experience in terms of solving the customer right.
Yeah. Right. So on the interest of time, Anu, what does a truly revenue-aligned customer experience functions look like in practice? Is it more about structure, accountability, or the way access is measured? Or is there something else you want to add on to it?
It's all three of them, but in order of priority, first you take the accountability. That's how you understand. You put a structure, you put a measurement, and measurement has to be simple. I cannot talk in Hebrew and explain if you are speaking in Hindi. Both starts with H, but that's where the correlation stops. You wouldn't understand what I'm trying to say. So, NPS or CSAT or resolution rate is an early indicator of how a customer is feeling. It should be married by what pinches in our proxy world, Sapna, or the sales head. What is the customer metric that's causing today's sales, tomorrow's sales, and the lifetime value of the customer? Once we know this right, we can drive is my thing. So, of course, all three of them, but first accountability followed by structure and metrics to support that binarily.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's same with Sugarfeed as well. So we also focus on all the three things. And we want the users, probably we in health tech, users do not come back again, right? So they once take a subscription and then they go for, they go back and they don't come. So what we aim for is we want them to buy or spread that happy thing to the others, and we want them to buy other products. And I'm sure maybe if not now, down the period, maybe 6 months down the line, they will come back and they will buy certain products from our end. So that's something we also focus on. So coming to another question. So researchers, I think I've already spoken about this, Is customer experience becoming an economic engine for growth? What is that one change organization must make fully to unlock this impact on revenue and retention? I think we can also keep the audience open after your answer.
Yeah.
So,
So a single liner, it was always a driver for growth. Now increasingly we are communicating it better and understanding it better. That's the difference.
yeah. I think we can keep the question open for the audience. If you have something to touch upon, yeah, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's always good to hear you both. This is Vinay, and I lead the training and quality for customer experience at ITC. I keep quoting one data because we talked about a lot of data points that if you combine all the leakages, including the ones because of the bad customer experience, the global leakage goes up to the debt of $8.9 trillion. So my question to you both is that how do you make your leadership understand that customer experience is one of the most critical driving factors for any organization? And to add on to your story, Anu, if an organization is a car, the steering wheel driving that organization is customer experience or the support functions like L&D. But when you have these conversations in the boardrooms, sometimes the scenarios are different and the focus is too much on the quantifiables instead of talking about the more qualitative aspects.
So, like I said, I think it's the same question. If I understood that, how do you make your leaders hear that, this is important? It has to be both ways, dude. And that's the honest answer, because like if you're not clear, that's why I said the accountability starts first, where you understand it's not only the contacts, it's the issues we drive and what it leads to in terms of the customer retention, in terms of GMV. But having said that, once that is done, you can do all the maths. If your leaders aren't listening, that becomes a one-sided conversation. So the leaders also, and gradually, see, to be very fair, leaders are also understanding once you explain these with numbers, and it's both inside out, outside in. You quoted interesting stats from Qualtrics. There are researches in last 1.5 years, both from Qualtrics, from Forrester, from McKinsey, all of them in some shape and the other absolutely underscores what customer experience can drive. So inside out, your unit economics that we discussed about, and outside in these results reports, if presented properly, should make the leaders listen if they are not already aware of it.
Yeah, I think from a startup point of view, it's super difficult to make the management understand, because for them, it's always the revenue. They want 2x revenue coming into place, right? So from customer experience point of view, we've stopped asking for the budget. So we just let we just show them the cost to serve. So that speaks it. And what is the user's engagement? All of that basic data speaks, and that's when they want to invest money on the customer, retention.
Excellent. A quick add-on. Do you also interlink ESAT and CSAT?
Of course, that's a basic metric all the organization track, and we do track it, but that's not the main metric that we keep it in our mind to for retention or maybe for renewals. Anybody else who wants to take this up and answer? Oh, I don't see anybody answering. Probably, okay. So you want to say something, Anu?
No, it was a great experience talking to all of you and probably having this discussion. Yeah.
So I think just a closing statement probably. So what I'm taking away from this, entire discussion we've had today is the teams that win aren't the ones who believe in experience the hardest. I think they are the ones who learn to say the language the money speaks, right? So that's something we are taking on. And yes, of course, customer experience, creating them a delightful experience matters a lot in bringing them back to buy the product or to do anything in the organization, right? So that's something a brand has to work on, and that's a take on this. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Anu.
Thank you. Thanks. It was
so
lovely
much
talking to all of you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. Can we please have a huge round of applause for Dishma and Anuradha Chakravarti? May I have Jigar on stage to felicitate our speakers? And can we have a beautiful round of applauses for our ladies standing over here?